Okay, Elaine, 6 months ago, this came through on the AP Newswire. The head of a Chinese government expert team said Monday that human-to-human transmission has been confirmed in an outbreak of a new coronavirus, a development that raises the possibility that it could spread more quickly and widely. We are now 6 months into the COVID-19 pandemic. What do we know today, Elaine, that we did not know then?
So the biggest ahas for me is the discovery of the asymptomatic spreader. And what I mean by that is an individual who's contracted the COVID-19 virus, and for the first 0 to 3 days afterwards, they may be asymptomatic but contagious. Now, the World Health Organization sets this at about 40%, and it could actually be, in fact, higher. So while it's important that we do temperature checks and we do our questionnaires at the front doors, they may not be able to screen those people who are asymptomatic spreaders. So what does that come down to? That if we're suspicious that we've been in contact with someone, test, 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 because testing leads to tracing and isolation of the cases of COVID-19 patients.
Are you worried at all about a wave 2 or a phase 2 of COVID happening?
Well, if there's a model around the world right now, is that as we begin to go into phase 2 and 3, the reality is that we are mingling. And if we don't practice social distancing and other things that we can do to prevent transmission, we could very likely have waves 2s and 3s.
Okay, what about a vaccine, Elaine? What are your thoughts on that? Are we close?
Well, I know there's conditions of people who are saying I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm not one of those, because I feel that because the virus, in fact, has mutated many times, it's very hard to kind of hold it down to create a vaccine that works 100%. So take the winter flu virus, influenza A, it mutates every year, so that's why we need to get a vaccine every year, and it's not highly effective all the time, and sometimes at 50%. So while I'm hopeful that we get one, the reality is I don't see one on the horizon within the next year in a practical way, so protect yourself from getting COVID-19.
So in the meantime then, until we are able to get access to a vaccine, what do we do? What do we need to do to protect ourselves?
I like to break this down into 2 different areas. The first area that we want to look at is airborne risk, and the second area is surface risk. So let's talk about the airborne risk. We know that when we speak in a general tone, that 2 meters is good, and there's studies to show that it actually does drop it by 10% compared to 1 meter, so that's 2 meters. But if you sneezed and you didn't wear a mask and you did it in a closed environment, that air cloud or voice cloud can carry up to 12 feet. So an analogy I want to use all the time is when you're in an elevator and somebody may have sneezed and they have asymptomatic COVID-19 and they're not wearing a mask, and then you go into that elevator and you're not wearing a mask, you could inhale that virus into your body. That is not good. So that takes me to the second thing of protection, which is the question that you're posing to your audience is, should you wear a mask? And my short answer is yes. My long answer is yes, simply because it protects you and it drops your risk by 15%. Like if you get into an environment that's generally in a closed environment, it was about 17% risk, but if you wear your mask, it drops to 3%.
Okay, and the second part, Elaine?
Second part is your surface risk. Now, we know the virus has a fatty layer, and that's why washing hands works, because literally the soap pops the virus, just like we use detergent to wash our dishes, and it pops the virus. And the other way to pop the virus is to use our alcohol-based hand sanitizers. Now, those things are excellent, but this virus, in fact, is dead, and it needs a host to replicate, and it lives on surfaces. A study in April showed that it lives on cardboard for about 24 hours, and all the way to smooth plastic for about 3 days. So I also encourage people to use disinfectants, and there's certainly many of them on the market, but go to the Health Canada site, and there's some products that even have a drug information number, or a DIN, that proves that it does kill COVID-19.
This is really good information, Elaine. Thank you so much for keeping us safe until we get our hands on that vaccine. We appreciate that.